there are people who sort of free riding on the migrant crisis and and the camp at Calais and what's happened in Germany to suggest that this is the fuel behind the Brexit fever. But of course there was Brexit fever even before the migrant crisis. What's the EU done wrong?
Well, this has been a long-running debate in Britain. Well, ever since I think you think back decades, this has been an issue. And I think fundamentally what it goes back to is if you look back you go right back and think, why was the EU created in the first place? The predecessor organisations. For most of continental Europe, I think for all of it, it was a reaction to World War II. Right? It was about how do we bind countries in Europe closer together so they never have to go through that kind of that kind of horrific killing and that kind of thing ever again. And clearly, if you're more economically bound, then it's going to bring you together. And so that's perfectly sound and perfectly reasonable. For Britain, when Britain joined much later, it was much more about the economics, and it always has been. It was about the single market and having all these consumers on your doorstep, being able to sell your products without customs checks and any problems across all these borders. And that's got a value. And actually, it was Margaret Thatcher that was the biggest advocate of the single market, and rightly saying that, to make it work properly, you're going to have some sharing of sovereignty to set the rules, and everyone sort of accepted that. But it comes with lots of other things that people don't like. So, for example, you mentioned migration flows, and that's been a sort of long-running issue. Not the recent migration we're seeing, but more the legal migration even has been an issue for many British people. And so it's sort of, I think, a different viewpoint for Britain versus the rest of Europe that has caused this tension and has eventually got to a point where I think quite rightly David Cameron said, look, this has been a long-running issue and we should settle it for this generation because it's absolutely right that this generation didn't vote for the kind of relationship that we have today. So let them have a say. Let's have the arguments, but let the British people decide.